Super Retro Force.
Hello everyone, we are back, and we are here with a review of Ys 10 Nordics for the PC, but this game is also available for the PlayStation 5, the PS4, and the Switch. And before we get this review going, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to NIS for providing a copy of this for me. Thank you so much, I truly appreciate it. But with that being said, what exactly is Ys 10 Nordics? So basically, it's the 10th title in the long-running Ys series, which follows the journey of adult Christian on his wonderful adventures. Now, where this one takes place is after the events of Ys 2, but also before the events of Memories of Salsetta, because this starts with Adol going to Salsetta with Dogi, and them getting stopped or pulled over by the Balta Sea Force, which is headed by the Princess Karja, who is a warrior of sorts. Now, because of this occurrence happening, they stop in the city of Karnak, and the adventure begins when Adol discovers this mystical seashell on the beach and goes up against the beast that he cannot kill. However, that changes when he comes across this thing called mana, because that's the only way to take down these creatures known as the Giger down. Now, with that, he also comes across Karja, which they become linked with these mana cuffs, and they're basically stuck on this journey together. Now, the story itself maybe doesn't start the strongest, but it had the intrigue and the excitement that I had when playing Ys 9 Monster Nox with mystery and where the adventure goes, like in Ys 8, where it's just like, what is the deal with mana? Why are the Grieger doing what they're doing? Who is this person in the shell who goes by the name of Leela? And what exactly holds out in this land that they're in, the Obelia Gulf? So the story itself was a motivating factor, and you know, the twists and stuff and where it goes might be predictable, same thing with the characters, but the story was intriguing to me and it kept me going, and whenever something happened, I was like, oh jeez, so this is what we're doing now. No, it's one of my favorite things I liked about Ys 9, and I'm glad to see that come here in Ys 10. But the story and the journey itself is just part of what makes Ys special. The big thing with Ys is its gameplay, and the gameplay has seen some, I wouldn't say too radical changes, but it has changed up since the last few installments. Now, if you remember the last few games, you basically had these three types of attacks, or these kind of characters that you could use that had specific attacks, whether it would be Slash, Pierce, or Smash. I believe it was called correctly. Strike, sorry. Slash, Pierce, or Strike. That system is now gone, and instead of a three-party that you had with, say, Ys 8 and Ys 9, you're just down to two, and it's just Adol and Karja. But at least they make it make sense with like the mana cuffs and how they play. But in terms of how combat works, it's still an action RPG, so that doesn't change. You have an attack button, you still have your special skills, you have dodges, but they've changed how dodges work in this game. So you can still like run around in your environment, but in terms of dodging attacks, it's just the press of, like in my case, I'm using the Xbox controller, the left bumper, and holding it down, and you can dodge attacks or you can guard attacks. Now, this also plays in the gameplay because you'll see enemies either glow blue or red. Now, blue is where you would use the dash attack, and that allows you to dodge and everything, and then you can just, within a few seconds of it, attack with like a counter. Whereas if you see the red one, that's where you would use the guard, which in this case is right trigger on the Xbox controller, and you block it, but you also build up this thing in a revenge gauge, which ties into dual mode, which we'll get to in a minute. but you can block these attacks, and then that helps build up your revenge meter, and then if you do the duo attacks, that actually does more damage. Now, the interesting thing, at least with the red and blue, depending on circumstances, is that you can unleash these attacks, and if you do it at the right moment, you'll see a prompt come up on the screen, which is just pressing your attack button, and you'll be presented with this awesome animation of this very special attack that does quite a bit of damage. Now, the thing with at least doing those is that you can't hold it forever, because it's good for a couple of seconds, so you're gonna have to keep resetting with it. I know there were points where I held it down, like say for the guard, and it worked for a few seconds, but I kept holding it and then I took damage with it. So you'll have to reset it every once in a while, but it's definitely good to have. Now, in terms of like how combat for attacks work, you can play it solo with each of the characters, and they each have their own kind of special moves, and just like in the other Ys games, you can build those up and master them, and you can unlock, say, other abilities. You also get them through like a skill tree and all that, and if you master one, you can unlock another one. But they've split up the skills into two things, so you can do it solo, or you can do it in duo mode, which is, again, like what you're doing for the guard, for the red, which is like the right trigger in this case, which does more damaging attacks, but also unlocks special skills exclusively for duo mode. And you'll be using duo mode quite a bit, because there are enemies that will take more damage, like when using duo mode, and you'll need that for when they have armor. Because some of the enemies have 2 health bars, which leads to a gripe I have with combat, because I feel like that stretches it out too much. Because some enemies will have a guard meter, and you can use your duo mode, to get rid of that to get them back to their health. But at some point during that, they'll unleash a blast, and then they'll refill that armor gauge. So it kind of prolongs combat. It's kind of annoying, but it doesn't break the experience. It just maybe makes it drag on for a little longer than it should. Now, with duo mode, I found the most fun with that, just because of what you can do with it, and the special moves that Adol and Karja can pull off together. So combat itself is fun. It might be a little divisive for some because of that, where it might make solo mode kind of pointless, but I did find its uses in some scenarios. So, but the combat itself is still great. I loved it. It did take a little bit of getting used to, especially with the different button placements for things, because it did feel different. But gameplay wise, like, it's not just the combat, you still have your exploration, which ties into the ship. You have naval combat, so I know Adol apparently is not good with boats because they constantly crash a lot. If you've played some of the other games, you might know that. But you man a ship, you get a crew, and you will be able to upgrade the ship with, say, its damage, its health, its speed, and even some of its special abilities, such as using special weapons, special attacks, or even using mana on the ship, because yes, your mana system does expand to the ship, which you'll need to use for like setting sail, like going faster, or even guarding against, say, attacks or going through rubble and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of fun with the ship stuff, because it kind of reminded me of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and even Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is some of my favorite aspects of that game, just sailing around and just getting into random encounters with the combat, finding new islands, just exploring, or even doing side quests. I did spend quite a bit of time with it. I have no shame in saying that. And if you did like it in those games, you'll appreciate it here. It's not the best. Like, I still find it weird that the ship can drift. Maybe it's just me or I'm looking at it wrong, but I find that kind of funny. But I did like the exploration with the ship. The ship was fun. And even getting into like the random encounters with combat and using your special attacks, and even raiding ships when you're in the combat, which can get you special like equipment that you can use for crafting. I thought it was fun, and it's definitely worth the time, for sure. If they incorporate something like this into other Ys games, I would definitely be excited to see where like that aspect goes of it, and especially just sailing around, just losing time to that. Definitely a blast. But the mana system is also something else too. The mana system is not just used to cuff these two together. You can also use mana for traversal stuff. So you'll get a hoverboard that you can, roam around in the environment, and you'll need that for some water, like if you're going on deep water, because otherwise you just fall down. Or you can even use it for swinging at some points in the environment. So it still keeps kind of that kind of verticality and exploration aspect, which I thought was pretty fun. And there's even an ability, which I won't spoil, but the cuffs are a thing, but they're not always going to be a thing. That's all I'm going to say about it, because I don't want to spoil too much of the game here, because it's really a good thing of discovery and also unlocking new abilities as well for Adol and Karja, whether it be their special skills or even using other abilities with the mana, such as these spheres that you can use on a tree that can grant them, bonuses to, say, their strength, dexterity, their health, breakage, vitality, or even other special things. So you'll get these in the environment and you'll unlock them through the tree, and if you stack some of the same color, you'll get special perks and stuff, whether it be, say, higher damage, say, against Griegers, or even lower SP costs. So there's quite a bit to it, though. The gameplay did keep me hooked. It's the story itself, like I said, that kept me hooked throughout this entire thing, but the gameplay thankfully holds up. It may not be for everyone's cup of tea, whether it be like the changes to the action combat, or even how ship exploration works, or just all of that, but it's the journey itself that matters, and I found it worked well for me, and I was always excited to see where things would go next. But the other things that made Ys special, like at least for me with 8 and 9, were definitely its presentational aspects. So its graphics is something, they're not the most technically impressive, like they don't always push the hardware. You're not going to see like amazing ray tracing or anything like that, but these games have an art style, and I feel like the art style works well for what Falcom does. I do think these have some of the best looking character models I've seen in the franchise yet, especially like with Adol and Karja, and they are somewhat expressive, at least with that. Their eyes are very expressive, or at least I feel very well detailed, and the characters themselves are good with that. The environments are just kind of okay, like the sea, you're constantly looking at the water, and the land itself, it may not be the most detailed or anything like that, and same with some of the buildings, like when you're out at sail, but when you go into it, it's a little bit better. It's a little bit better, but it's not really pushing boundaries when it comes to hardware. So that probably can explain why some of the specs might be reasonable with it for PC, which, why don't we talk about some of those PC features here? Now, when it comes to the PC version, you have a good amount of graphical options that you can mess around with. If you don't want to tweak with that, there are presets, whether it be for performance, so if you just want to get the fastest performance, obviously with the lowest settings. Then there's default, which basically matches it with the console versions. And then there's high, and then there's ultra, which basically push it beyond what those consoles have to offer. Now, I did play with ultra, and performance was just okay. I did notice a dip every once in a while with it, so I kind of defaulted it to high. Now, my PC isn't the most powerful out there. I'm running an i7 9700K, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, an NVIDIA RTX 2070, and I'm running the thing off of an NVMe. And for the most part, the game ran well when I put everything down to high settings. It was pretty much a lock 60, but there are some weird oddities. Like, I did notice when playing, sometimes the frame rate would just tank when messing with some of the settings, and it would take a little bit to get back up. And even if you were doing character, like for Adol and Karja, if you were messing with their equipment, sometimes the frame rate would just tank. And same thing with messing around with customization for the Sandras. But as I was playing, the performance did get better. It did get updated, so I'm hoping it's going to be fine like that out of the box. The nice thing also with options too is, like, when you break them down, you can actually, if you're playing the game, you can actually press a button to see a preview of things, like where you are in the game, where you can see how, say for example, anisotropic filtering is, how anti-aliasing goes, or even, volumetric lighting. So you can get a little preview of that. I do like that feature, and I feel like that should be standard for games going forward. We're starting to see that at least more with PC settings, which is nice. But there's two features, or at least options, I feel like that are missing here, that were at least what I saw in the Ys 9 Monstrum Nox demo on PC. And I want to see them implemented here. I want to see the ability to go to a higher frame rate, because at least right now the game just caps itself at 60. But if you could raise it to like 120, 144, or even just unlock the frame rate completely, I feel like that would be really cool to have. And the other thing was a kind of FOV slider. The default FOV in the game is fine, I think it works well, but if you had the ability to like extend it farther or even shrink it down, I don't know why you'd want to, but you could. I do like that. I want to see those implemented back into Ys 10 Nordics. The fact that they were in Monstrum Nox and they're not here is just a little bit baffling. But the other, overall, like at least as a PC version, I think it's alright. I think it's a really good job. There are still things that can be improved with it, but you know, as it stands, if you got a good PC, I'd say the PC version is really the way to go and play this game. But the other aspect of presentation is its music. Now, Ys 8 I hold as one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Monstrum Nox Ys 9 was actually not bad, but I did feel it was a bit weak. I can safely say, at least with Nordics, like the Nordics soundtrack, at least when it kicks in, it does a good job. There is a good variety of things to it. So with that, here are some songs or tracks that stuck out to me for this game. Where I would say it lands overall, though, I mean, I would put it above Monstrum Nox. I don't know if I'd put it above Ys 8 yet. I need to play this. I want to play it some more. I just want to listen to the tracks, because I did pick up the soundtrack for this game before playing it, but I didn't listen to it. I was waiting to play the game first and then listen to the soundtrack after. But I can say the music in this game is an improvement, I find, and it's got some really good tunes. And the way kind of the arrangements are and the instruments that they use with it, definitely good stuff. If you like the music from Falcom, I think you will be very pleased with what is here for Ys 10. But overall, I would say Ys 10 Nordics is probably going to be a little bit of a divisive title for some, just because of all of the changes that they make with its gameplay and even kind of the look of things. Like, it still keeps the look of Ys, I find. I do like this visual style, though, and the gameplay wise, like with what they've done with it, I do appreciate it. I like the change. It does take a little bit of getting used to though, but once you get the hang of it, I think you'll have fun with it. And I can't wait to see where the series goes next from here. Hopefully a remake of Ys 5, that would be cool. But if they are to continue with this, I feel like this is a good kind of foundation of what they have here, and that this can be built upon in future games, whether, again, they be remakes or even if we get an Ys 11. All I can say is that wherever Adol goes next on his adventures, you can count me in. I can't wait to see where it goes. Again, with that said, I want to give again a big shout out and thank you to NIS for providing me a copy of this for the PC. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been a while since I've done a review, but I hope you guys liked it. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you're picking up Ys 10 Nordics, or if you've played it, what are your thoughts on it? And I actually will mention one thing too with it. There is a demo available. If you're not sure or you want to see how it is for yourself, play the demo, see what you think about it. And also, if you play it on PC, you can mess around with the graphic settings and then tweak it to your liking, so you can find something that works for you. But again, I'd love to hear what you guys would have to say about this and your thoughts. Don't forget to leave them in the comments below. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot, and I thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this. Thank you so much for this. With that being said, until next time, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.